afraid of the highest height, are afraid of flying now. I've never been afraid to the wildest fight, not afraid of dying. But now I wanna know this right, cause it's keeping me. And I don't like where I was going. I need a new fun fact, cause it's keeping me.
All right. Who was that? Improver and Terrace STANIN. Okay, Terrace STANIN. All right.
The terrorists. The terrorists.
He's a terrorist.
I almost like miss George W. Bush. The terrorists.
The
You know?
terror. The
You just say
terror.
it like it's like a one-syllable word. The
Terrorist.
Is there 3 syllables in that? It's just terrorists.
Oh my gosh.
Back in the good old days.
Yeah. Back in the good old days of 9/11 and the Patriot Act.
9/11, the Patriot Act, destroying the Constitution and the world.
Nice. Finally.
Right? When things were the way they should be.
When things were worse, but we didn't know about it.
Yeah, but we just didn't know. We had more blissful ignorance. Before we launch into anything new, I unloaded last time. I don't think we released the episode, but I was curious if you had some because you had thoughts. It sounded
Man, I barely remember though. Well,
okay,
the one thing, though that which maybe I'm just being dense or something.
Okay.
But when you were starting the story about
my
talking
buddy,
to the old guys and the politics and stuff like that. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Oh no, sorry. You go. I thought Joe, you just go.
I thought, okay, I was expecting there to be something because you were bothered about it or something, right? And you were like, okay, I want to get this off my chest or whatever, talk about it. But I never really heard to overhear, or maybe I just missed it. Maybe you were clear and I just fucking missed it. What was the thing? And I don't know if you want to keep talking about it or whatever, but I didn't get the thing that was like really upsetting. I didn't get that part. Like I kept because we talk about some crazy shit.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And so I was ready for, and then he pulled out a gun, I didn't get what it was that was so upsetting. Besides, it was just like an upsetting interaction with somebody. I thought there was like I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but maybe I didn't get it. Maybe it was just upsetting talking to an older Jewish guy who's MAGA and kind of having to deal with somebody kind of using the dehumanizing talk about like humans, like, oh, they're animals, stuff like that. That's plenty upsetting. But was that the thing that was upsetting to you? What was the upsetting thing?
Well, okay. So I think part of the disconnect with or the distance between what I was trying to express and articulate and you waiting for, how about, let's say, a bigger punchline or something like that you're like, oh, because at some point you were like, oh man, I can't wait to hear what you say that. And I was like, and I was basically like, look, I think if me and you were alone, like out of range of a recording device, I think
where's that? Where can you go where that is?
No, exactly. I think I could have delivered the goods better, according more along the lines of what I meant to articulate and express. And what you were waiting for, that I was just like, you know what? I'm not willing to speak completely freely.
Okay.
So I think that a lot of it comes down to that.
Okay.
I think a lot of it really comes down to like what I did not feel comfortable saying, even though I was like, whatever, we're not going to publish this, but still we're being recorded. And so I didn't want to say something that could be later be held against me.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
so you had some bigger maybe emotions or thoughts or something, but you just didn't really want to say them because of being recorded. So you kind of toned it down a little bit.
Yeah, I toned it down.
Gotcha.
And I almost like tiptoed around it to some extent. But ultimately, I guess on some level, something maybe a a way I feel comfortable saying it, but it's not as shocking. But is the greater overall idea that I was trying to get at is the idea of self-censorship. And even someone like myself, even though I go to great lengths not to self-censor, and that I want to share something with you. And look, and right now I'm in a much better place. So
right.
I don't really feel the emotions I was feeling last week that was maybe gonna get me to blurt something out in a way that that look, and the chances are it wouldn't be held against me because I don't expect this to ever catch on, and blah blah blah. But
sure.
I'm just saying, like, I know that everything is being recorded, and that if at some point I do cross a certain line or piss off the wrong people, that now they have the AI to comb through everything.
Of course,
and look for buzzwords and blah blah blah, and then they'll be like, "Hey, you once said this,"
which they used to hide, but then
now they're not.
They're not. It's like, let's just make it okay to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's build data centers. Let's make this like really obvious that that's what we're fucking doing.
Yeah, exactly. So for me,
speaking of the Patriot Act, Lord,
I know, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this also goes to show how so much of this stuff dovetails together and proves that there is maybe not a perfect one, but there is a kind of master plan that is definitely being executed over a long period of time. And because it happens at a long period of time and it's hard to find accurate coverage of it, and accurate analysis of it, it's people like you and I, we do our level best to try to make sense of it and try to explain it and analyze it. But the reality is we're still outsiders. We might be able to understand elements or aspects of it, but to explain it like 2 + 2 = 4, we are not there yet. Even though we're a lot closer to being able to do that than like 99% of people. Like, that's still not good enough, and I'm aware of that. And like, not good enough meaning if you lie for the establishment, whether you're left, right, Democrat, Republican, progressive, far right, whatever, who cares? Like, if you lie for the establishment, like, you will fail your way to the top. But if you really are trying to not be a Trump, a Bernie Sanders, a Obama, a Mamdani, or whatever, like one of these puppets that's, put up, that's like, hey, like, the establishment and the empire loves these people because they're like, hey, look, it's free. It's freedom. Like, we let this person won. They weren't supposed to win, but here they are, and they won. And you think it's all just neoliberalism and neoconservatism? It's like, no, look at these people who have won, and they approve, and they lend a certain credibility and legitimacy, unless people are like vigilantly skeptical, so unless you can really map it out totally accurately, like, so if you lie for the establishment, even if whether you're the Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, or the Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, whatever, you will fail your way to the top. You will die very wealthy. Your progeny will have the greatest of opportunities, all those things that we claim to whatever, be any somewhat legitimate incentive some of us might be lured to go after.
Yeah, versus your family being killed, like, it's like,
versus your family being killed. Yeah.
Would you like for your family to be prosperous and your children to like laugh and play and sing, or would you like them dead? Like,
yeah, okay, right. Exactly.
Thanks. At least you asked me.
if that's what the decision is between, then okay.
Yeah, of course. It's like no problem.
But if you try to really fight against it or expose what's may or may not really be going on, like if you get 9 out of 10 things wrong, all they're going to focus on is that 1 out of 10 things you didn't get right, or that one I you didn't dot or T you didn't cross. And then to the whole media, left or right or Democrat or Republican, whatever, like it's just, that's how it will be presented. And like, good luck convincing others otherwise. And you might be able to eventually catch on in one of the independent or alternative media spheres. But it's, I'm just saying, like, this is the game, this is the incentive structure. And I felt like if I was 100% candid and honest, I would have said things that in the future could end up undermining some things that are important to me. But on the other hand, I want to just, I'm bothered by that I'm self-censoring. I'm bothered that, because on some level, what I want to do, and I feel like in all this time we've been doing this podcast, I feel like one of the things I can bring to the table is that I'm willing to just completely open myself up and lay myself bare. And then, like, for example, have someone like yourself be, help dissect me and help me analyze, and I trust you, not only your wisdom and intelligence and knowledge, but also, trust you that where you're coming from, like there isn't some other agenda, like, because it's, it really is a tricky thing to know who to truly trust. And even if you can trust a person, they mean no harm, that doesn't mean they have the vision and the clarity to see the map.
Yes.
And to be able to help guide you and steer you on the right course and keep you on the right course. And, you're one of the few people I have, because I have a lot of friends and family that I love and care about and vice versa. But like, I really don't have many people that I can like talk about this stuff with, that I can go deep into it with, and they're with me, and not just with me and humoring me or hearing me out, but like, like go on some crazy super marathon run. And you're one of the only, maybe I have some people that, well, they can run 10 to 15 miles with me at a fast pace, but after that, they're like, all right, I got to stop.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay. And, and then you got to find someone else for the next 10 to 15 miles,
Yeah.
And that's like, in a way, what I do is like, all right, I got to meet people where they're at.
Sure.
And not everyone is going to really be able to run with me on the super marathon, but I just got to meet people where they're at, And so like this past weekend, I went to my buddy's place who lives in like upstate New York, and he's like a really good runner, like long distance runner.
Yeah.
And he's a really good hiker. Like he's hiked most of the Appalachian Trail by himself.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's like pretty hardcore.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
And me and him have done a lot of like, him and a few other friends have done some pretty big hikes together and camping together. And me and him always like pull away. And the other guys are in really good shape too, but they just can't keep up.
Yeah. And
so me and him went and we did this thing called Devil in a Day. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No, never before.
Okay. So it's this thing. It's like it's this like hiking trail in the Catskills that is called Devil in a Day because it's like 25 miles.
Lordy.
Of just like, dude, I mean, I've done a lot of hikes, like a lot of hikes. I've done a lot of challenging hikes, and they've all been like whatever to me. Like in that I can, like when I was in California, when, a couple of weeks ago, I would do like a 4 to 5 hour hike every day by myself, and I'd bring no water to make it more challenging.
Yeah.
And by the end, I'd be like totally dehydrated, and, I'd be like cramping up and blah, 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 but and so we did this hike, and this was something that, takes the normal person that does it, it takes like 12 to, I don't know, something like 12 to 16 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, and dude, and the vertical, the steep inclines and the steep declines are like, they're intense. Like it's almost at times it's almost like mountain climbing.
Uh-huh.
But you have no harness and stuff like that. And the thing was, it was like it had rained there, so it's all slippery.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just like, and there was one point where I was like climbing up one of the kind of semi mountain climbing parts.
Yeah.
It was super steep, almost vertical. And I was like climbing this thing, and the rocks were like wet and slippery. And so I had to like grab onto this tree root as like a grip. And I'm glad I did, because when I tried to push up off my plant foot, like it totally slipped and gave way. And if I didn't, and I almost fell, and if I'd fallen, I mean, I could have died, because it was like pretty high, but I caught onto the tree root. And just as an example, it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And I have like an old, I popped a hamstring playing football like 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, it's just that hamstring is a little tighter than the other one.
Yeah, yeah.
And at some point with like we were about like 4 to 5 miles away from being halfway through it, the whole thing. And then my hamstring started seizing up on me.
Oh,
yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck. Because I was like, dude, if this pops while we're hiking, like I'm fucked, because like we're in the middle of this, the first half of it, which is a 12-mile thing. So we had another 4 to 5 miles to go. So it was like best case scenario, we had to go another 4 to 5 miles somehow. And with a dead hamstring, me trying to limp, it just would have been hell. And we made it. So from then on, we kind of took it a little bit easy from then on. And that helped, because we were going at a really fast pace the whole time.
Of course, sure.
And because also you want to beat the darkness, because we woke up at like 4 a.m. to start.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, and we got to the actual path by 6 or 6:30, which we meant to start. And right as we're about to start, I just like about to text like Maria, like, oh, good morning, I miss you, like our normal good morning stuff.
Yes.
And as I go to text her, she's in the process of texting me, saying something really weird is happening. And I'm just like what?
Yeah, like just tell me.
Just tell me, yeah, because
the craziest, weirdest thing is happening, and then you don't get any more message like, no, just put in the first message.
Yeah, right. I'll just leave it at that.
No, I'll just leave it at that. I know you're not. There's really crazy, weird things happening, but I'll just leave it at that, since I know.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, oh man, I'm like, oh God, I gotta call her. So I call her, and she's been having a lot of migraines recently.
Mm-hmm.
And
she had them like throughout her life, or it's a new thing?
She's been having them for a long time, ever since I've known her, and I think they've been happening before that.
Well, so I gotta tell my migraine story after you're done.
Okay. So she's had issues with migraines. She's also got some like vitiligo. And that's like what like Michael Jackson had.
Oh, sure,
like, okay, it's like when you're
that's what I thought it was. And I was like, oh, I think I'm wrong, because what does that have to do with migraines? I was like, maybe it's something else. Yeah. No, I know exactly what that is, of course.
And she's had some psoriasis recently. So she's had these things, and I watched Jack Kruse interview this other doctor, and the doctor was like, oh, I have a little bit of vitiligo, and I've been having a little bit of psoriasis. And Jack Kruse was like, dude, like right now, that's not the end of the world, but that is your mitochondria is screaming out to you. It's giving you a warning signal. It's manifesting as vitiligo and psoriasis, but like, you need to address this and make certain changes, otherwise, eventually, this is going to lead to really bad things. And so I've been, trying to talk to Marie about this, but at this moment, she's in straight, understandable and like serious panic because she woke up, she's about to have to go into work to do a double, and it's like 6:30 in the morning, and she doesn't have to be in work for another hour and a half or whatever, but she got up, her hand, she had her phone in her hand, and her hand went limp, and then the phone just fell out of her limp hand, and as it fell, she like screamed, but she didn't realize that she screamed. But then at the end of the scream, she was just like, "Why am I screaming?" So it's like very strange episode.
Yeah, that
you
is.
know, and
yeah,
and I was like, "Oh God!" And she's like, "I think I should go to the emergency room," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to be there for her," but I'm also like, I'm literally about to start this huge hike that honestly I was very nervous about because I knew this was going to be a really fucking hard hike.
Right. Yeah, for real.
And I have these little injuries like that hamstring thing and these other injuries that have been lingering that are just in the back of my head. I'm just like, let me make it through this hike, without getting injured on it, because that would just, again, because you're racing against the night. We didn't bring tents. It's like if we get stuck out there, whatever. It's just, it was just something I was nervous about.
Yes.
And I was like, but now I was like psyched for the hike. And then all of a sudden this call happens and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like, I should leave right now and go and be with Maria. And she's like, no, it's okay. Just stay out there. Cause it would have taken me, like, basically, if I had left at that moment to go be with her, I wouldn't have been able to get to her for realistically best case scenario for like another 6 hours. Like that's how long it would have taken for me to go from A to B to B to C to C to D and blah, 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 and finally make it to her. So I knew even if I left at that moment, like I wasn't going to be able to be there for her the way I wanted to be. And I was like, what do I do? And my buddy was like, look, I'm doing the hike either way, but if you want, I'll drop you off at, some nearby town to, where there's a bus or a train and, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like trying to figure out what should I do. And I'm like, oh, and then I call her back and I'm like, I feel terrible. And she'd been like, don't worry about it. My mom might come in or my brother might come with me.
Yeah.
But I still feel bad. And I'm like, no, I want to be there for you. And she's like, no, like, don't worry. Like, you go and do that. I'm sorry. She's like, I shouldn't have even told you about it because I knew you were about to start the hike.
Yeah, but that's scary. That's a scary situation.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
but I would have felt the same way as her. I would have been like, oh, why am I telling her? Like, I don't want to, she needs a clear mind for this. And it totally did fuck with me. Like the whole time I was just like in the back of my head worried about that. And that definitely, I feel like whatever, cortisol and stress, just doesn't help, especially when there's going to be enough cortisol and stress from this hike. I mean, she ended up being okay and ended up being able to go to work.
Okay.
But she had to go to the hospital a Monday, and she doesn't have insurance right now on top of it because she's an acupuncturist, but the place she works at, like a lot of jobs, they're sorry, you don't have benefits. You don't have insurance.
Right, of course.
Yeah. And so this is this little period of time.
I'm trying to make a profit here.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some sort of service like New York City Cares or whatever, where they make it so that you can go to like Bellevue and get like, you'll have to wait forever, but like, it'll be a cheaper form of health insurance or coverage. And so she did that and had to spend all day there, and they did all these tests and
Jesus.
And it was like, and it sounded like it was interesting because it sounds like they were hurrying her through because I think they were like concerned,
Sure.
because when you go to the
it's like if you go to the ER, you're like, I've got chest pains. They're like, come right on in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if they have to prioritize,
if you got like
what
an
they
arrow
think
in
is
your
most urgent.
head and you're like talking, they're like, you can sit there for a couple hours.
Yeah. And so she went through this whole ordeal, and it's honestly, it's very, like, while it's sad and upsetting and frustrating for me, it's also very frustrating for me because I'm trying to get her onto the Jack Kruse train, and I'm not trying to get her to think Jack Kruse is the nicest, most fun, sweet guy, but it's just like, dude, this guy is cracking the code, and those who ignore this at their own peril,
or at least just try it. I mean, yeah. I mean, I have this exact. Sorry to interrupt you. I'll be done in just a second. This is the exact thing. This, as a therapist, what you find out is like, and I'm sorry, I'm probably say this shit all the fucking time, but it's like my day job, right? So it's like I'm just swimming in it all the time. No one really listens to you. No one wants to change out of efficiency. So you're basically trying to find a way to get people to just try some different shit, whether it's stuff they come up with, or stuff I come up, or stuff that we come up with in conjunction, or something that has good research behind it, or whatever the fuck makes them try different things. Because our ego gets attached to the strategy of our personality, and so it doesn't want to try other things.
Amen.
And so whatever it is, and people resist it out of efficiency. And so far, what I've seen is that now every once in a while, 1 out of 50 or so, people will just show up ready to try shit, And so maybe they've reached the point, or maybe they have a different type of like personality setup or something like that. But I'm just constantly trying to find what makes the person try new stuff. Already an area in their life where they try new stuff. Maybe they're a really adventurous chef, right? And they're trying different stuff all the time there. And it's like, okay, I found it, or whatever, and trying to find what it is that will make a person try things, with the understanding that probably the first few things that you try will not work, because honestly, it's so disappointing for people. They're depressed, they're anxious, whatever. And so they decide, okay, I'm going to try this journaling thing or something, right? And and for some people, journaling works really well. Actually, journaling works pretty damn well for me, to be honest with you, although I resisted it for a very long time. Finally, they're like, okay, I'm going to try journaling. And then they try it, and it doesn't work. And so then they're like, see, none of this shit. They throw out the baby with the bathwater. See, none of this shit works at all. I'm just fucked for the rest of my life. This just proves it. This just proves how bad things are.
Right.
I finally tried something that doesn't work. And it's like, it's trying to set up a system of like science, of being scientific, where you're going to run 10, 20 experiments. You're going to take that data, and then you're going to design a new experiment, and you're going to keep refining, because you're going to find some things that work, some things that don't. And then you keep refining and changing it until you create until you hack your system, until you get the experience that you want, right? It's not over until you win. So that it's going to be a process, but that's like how things are. That's the truth. Like, if you're going to invent the light bulb, as the Edison guy, he's like, you're going to have to make 10,000 light bulbs that don't work first. And then, but then you will fucking get there. It's science, it's data, it's being willing to be scientific about something that usually we're using our emotions to totally like guide us. And it's like, no, I have these emotions that are like this, but I'm still going to try these different things and see if I like anything about it or not. And then I can modify that going forward. Anyway, back to, so she did all the tests, and then it sounded like they didn't find anything, at least concerned.
Yeah, they didn't really find anything, and they still were like, hey, and they were like, maybe we think you should get an MRI.
Yeah.
They did like a CAT scan, they did blah, 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 but they didn't do everything. They still were like, oh, we'd like to do an MRI, and I'm surprised they didn't do blood work, but they didn't. But so they probably just could still do blood work and MRI to like help get more data and information to help make whatever, try to figure out what's going on. She got to see a neurologist, which is good. But basically I'm like, okay, but I'm like, I know, like, look, these doctors don't understand this stuff. They see it through the lens of biochemistry, not biophysics.
Yeah, or whatever their fucking view is, whatever. It's the exact same thing we were just talking about before. Mm-hmm. They're going to see it their particular way when actually there's 1,000 different ways to look at it.
Yes. And that's why, to me, okay, so let me just briefly bring it back to try to address when you were asking what makes someone change, right? You were just talking about that?
Yeah, usually suffering.
Well, yeah, but you were just saying that for your job and you're trying to better understand.
Yeah, I have to learn about somebody enough until I start to be able to go, oh, this is what you're internally motivated by. You have to hack the internal motivation system for a person. Yeah. What is it that we're willing to do with that we don't get paid for, that we'll skip sleep for, we'll skip food for? What are those things? And everybody has those things that motor their internal motivation. They're not doing it for anybody else. They're not doing it for reward. They do it because that's their internal belief system. That's their ethical or philosophical or spiritual or religious or whatever approach to life. Because you ask them, why do you do that? That's just who I am, Yeah, okay, we found it.
Yeah. And yeah, I found, well, like, let's say you're going to try to treat a kid who's have some issue going on, and you're like almost like, think of like Goodwill Hunting, right? Where he goes, they want him to, work with him because he's this brilliant scientific mind, but he's got these problems. And so they make a deal with the parole board, like, all right, we'll let him out under your guidance and tutelage, but he has to go to therapy to try to fix the underlying issues. And he's like, fuck that. I'm not going to therapy. I'm not into stupid bullshit. And it's like, so he takes him to all these different therapists that he knows, and each one, Will Hunting is Matt Damon's character is like, fuck this guy, and runs circles around.
Right, of course,
and,
yes.
And mocks it. And the people are like, Rrr! And he's like, yeah, that's why I don't trust you, is because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Even though you're the foremost expert in your field, you're still a clown. And everyone else is too dumb to know you're not a clown, that you're a clown, but I'm smart enough, even though might not be expert.
Yeah, I can pick up on where you're you're saying one thing and doing another. Yeah,
exactly. And then it takes, Robin Williams, that character, to find a foot in the door with this kid, And
which was to wait. He says, I can't be the first one to talk. I have to win this battle. Because it's like spending, he had to spend enough time with him that he would be kind of trustworthy. Because at least if you just sitting there silent, or you take, because he falls asleep and starts sleeping, he starts falling asleep in the session. Yeah, it's like at least that is non-deceptive, right? It's like Bill can't find you can't find a hole in that strategy. You're just gonna sit there and then take a nap when it's like, oh, okay, there's no neurotic structure. Although he does find it. He finds the one thing in him, which is his trauma around his wife. Right? That's the one way that he's able to kind of see. He says that's a super, isn't that a super theory or a super thing? It keeps you from ever experiencing life. You can just stay pissed off about your wife. He does find the one thing, but anyway, keep going.
But his foot in the door is that. Yes. It is the real foot in the door, in my mind, even though that was the thing that opened the door. I'd say with a foot in the door was the Carlton Fisk Boston Red Sox story.
Oh,
right? God. When he meets his wife, and he basically is like, oh, you went to that game? The game when Fisk, hit that shot and was trying to run around the bases, and everyone was coming out trying to block it. The fans, and he was barreling over the fans. He's like, yeah, you were there. Oh my God. He's like, no, I wasn't there. He's like, what do you mean? I thought you were there. He's like, no, I had tickets to the game. I was going to go, but then I met the woman who would be my wife, and I gave my tickets to my buddies. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And he couldn't understand that. He he finally puzzled him.
Yeah.
You know, he finally was like, he said this thing and he's like, wait, you didn't, I thought you went to the game. You didn't go to the game. You did this all for a girl.
Yeah.
Like you left that for a girl. Like I would never skip out on the Red Sox World Series. Like, oh my God. Like, and he's like, he befuddles him. He's finally, you know, flummoxed him. And then he's like, that's his foot in the door. It's like, wait a second. Like something he got thrown for a curveball. He was surprised. It's like a good joke has a surprise to it.
Yeah.
And he surprised him enough that he got his foot in the door. And then, you know, the story with the wife, like that you were talking about, and then eventually when he takes him outside and he's like, look, kid, like, I'll just straight shoot with you. Like, I'm not as smart as you.
Right.
I'm not as gifted in these ways that you are. But that being said,
yeah, but I've gone to Paris, you know. I've gone there. I could probably know everything about Paris, but I've gone there.
Exactly. You could tell me what so and so wrote about it and quote these brilliant minds, and that's good enough to do your own version of the dead wife theory that protects you against everyone you know because you're smarter than everyone you know, and this works. But what if when the shit, like, you know, I was thinking right before we talked, I was like, you know, because part of this is like what makes us eventually achieve greatness, and a lot of times it's kind of suffering, trauma, and persevering through that kind of stuff. And the people that can't, that never have had to go through that, like, good on them, because they don't, you know, have this trauma that is too bad that a lot of us have. But like, I was trying to imagine, like, what if we grew up in a place like where everyone playing chess was the top rated player that was around, that you were aware of, your all existence was like a 1200 rating, so that all you knew and all you could compete against was 1200 players. Like, maybe you could work to get a little bit better than them, but the ceiling is lowered because not everyone is as good. So Goodwill Hunting is surrounded by these people who, you know, he's a big fish in a small pond. You know, and honestly, this is some way that I very much feel about myself, is like, and that's why, you know, I was saying earlier that, like, you're one of the few people I can go on this intellectual, spiritual, super marathon with, and you can just keep up with me and add to it, and not just keep up, but like be this great running partner with, you know, whereas so many other people, I just have to meet them where they're at, because maybe they have, like, you know, my buddy who I just went on that hike with, he's a therapist and a, you know, psychiatrist. So he's in, you know, your area. So he's really knowledgeable about psychology. So I kind of meet him there, and me and him, I'll try to keep it to that. But there's all these other stuff, you know, that he just is just unaware of, or just isn't well read, or ignorant about. And he's at least has the decency and the humility to recognize that. Whereas some, like, you know, a lot of people have, like, it's like the collective Stockholm syndrome. They've learned to love their captors and the jail, the prison cell that they're in, because the prison cell, at least they feel, now that they're used to it after living in it for so long, it's like safe, and they don't want to leave it. Like Brooks in Shawshank Redemption, when he leaves, like, he wasn't, after all those many decades of being in that old guy, Brooks. From, you know, like, when he leaves it, he wasn't ready to leave those confines. Even though, you know, and it's like, and it's weird. And that's really, like, Jack Kruse just wrote this poem and posted it that was basically saying this the other day. It was like, look, we fall in love with the bars in our prison cell, you know, and that's usually
Plato 101.
Yes, the cave, right?
Because you don't have to be chained there.
You're willfully, it's like, whoa, my wrists just slide right out of the chains. But it's like, I'm not going to leave, because if I leave, like, I don't even know what's out there, and at least I know this, and I'm pretty comfortable with this, and this is, you know, like with our Netflix and our, you know, great streaming shows now and all that, you know, it's like they make these bars of gold, you know, to our jail cell, to the point where, you know, it's a brave new world, more than 1984, you know, especially in America, you know, where they're just going to pleasure us to death, and just keep us pleased and entertained, so that no one is gonna, because necessity is the mother of invention. People will change for the most part. Like you said, only 1 in 50 will change without this. Or
what I was saying too is, or they just show up at that point. They show up to me where they've suffered enough, right? They show up at that point, like there may not be like special people, you know what I'm saying? Like they may just show up at that time where they're actually ready to do the thing,
Right? Like they're coming to you because necessity is the mother of invention. They're at this place where they've reached an impasse. They've been at an impasse for long enough, and now they're going to at least try something, and they're going to try to get help. Whether it helps or not, that's another story, but they're going to try.
Oh, they're going to try some shit. God damn it.
They're going to, they're open. Yeah. They're going to be open to trying this. Whereas most people, they're like that saying, the first part of the problem is recognizing that you have a problem.
Right.
Yeah. And most people don't even know they have a problem, because most people are born and raised in the cult of false certainty, where, of course, like Dr. Fauci, if he says it, I'll believe it, or if you're into the whole Trump thing, it's like, oh, Trump if he says it, I'll believe it. He's fighting the deep state, or, like I sent you that Mamdani shit earlier today, and that's like another form of it, and it's like all these people that are like, oh, I love Mamdani. It's like, dude, he is not who you think he is, even though I'm not skeptical of him for the reasons that, like, whatever, like the Zionists are promoting. But that he just hates Jews. It's like, no, he doesn't hate Jews. He doesn't like what Israel does, But that being said, Jack Kruse is like, no, he was brought into power by the wealthy Zionists. And I was like, interesting, because that seems really counterintuitive. But again, that's part of the theater and the magic trick, is, like presenting, whether it's Obama, presenting him as the opposite of George W. Bush. Like that's why he won, is because he was presented successfully as the opposite of George W. Bush. But really, in reality and in substance, he was just a continuation of George W. Bush and all that. And whatever, it's not like George W. Bush was making decisions. It's not like Obama was making decisions. It's not like Trump is making decisions. It's like, no. They get the choice between option A, B, and C.
Sure.
They don't choose the head of the Fed. They choose between the option A, B, and C. And options A, B, and C are given to them by their masters. And that's a tough idea for a lot of people to wrap their minds around. Because they, look, it's a pretty sophisticated propaganda system, where even people like you and I, as knowledgeable as we may be in certain ways, we still fall for it at times. And I guess we just have to accept that. Like, that is just part of reality. As advanced as we are not the masters of understanding and decoding propaganda. We might be far better than 99% of people we know, but still, like, we're like 12, all we know is 1200 level players.
Right.
And that's part of why I feel like you and I, when we talk, whether it's in real time while we're talking or later when I'm processing or thinking about some of the things you've said, or the way that you allowed me to articulate and process things. You helped me become a 1230 player.
Sure.
And then the next time maybe I'll become a 1260
exactly
player.
Yeah.
And then little by little, next thing you know, over time, if we keep it up, it's like we might be like a 1400 player. And it's like, hey, and then we might think we're the king of the world or quote unquote expert, because everyone else we know is a 1200 player. And that's part of this trap, and I do think this comes back to, like, say, for example, secret society stuff, because secret society stuff is so clearly, or at least there's some element of it, of doing what I'm trying to talk about right now, is like people coming together and be like, guys, we got to talk about this shit and soundboard this stuff, because we can't just say this out loud in public, because if we do, they're going to call us witches or Satanists or whatever, or or
just kill us.
Yeah. And so we need to find a place where we can talk about this with people who are also knowledgeable and can do the intellectual, spiritual super marathon with us, so that we can progress these ideas and bounce them off. Because even though I might be really good in some ways and take the ball a certain distance, like I kind of need to collaborate with others, because especially someone who's a good complementary teammate, who I'm good in the A, B, and C areas, you're good in D, E, F areas, then we can like work together and help each other out and become this great team. Like how I like to say, on a baseball field, you don't want 9 starting pitchers on the field. You want like 1 starting pitcher, 1 catcher, 1 first baseman, and so on and so forth. But like, we're born in a place where everyone in a way wants to have dreams of being like the rock star or the president or be the CEO, whatever, like the superstar, as opposed to, it's like, no, look, it's not about that. That's like this ego trap that they're like, like Alan Watts would be like, hey, here, kitty, kitty, here, kitty, kitty, and then so you go over there, and then someone else pops up, here, kitty, kitty, here, and then the next thing you know, all these decades of your life following, around like a fool, these hey kitty kitty games, and you've never done anything that was really for yourself or your own vision. It was just you were playing someone else's game, and you just kept on getting these ego rewards. And because of all those ego rewards, you never realized that you were actually winning battles the whole time to just in the end lose the war. And the war is ultimately, I think, tapping into the potential, which is like that the Chase Hughes thing that you sent me,
the DMT one,
the DMT, yeah, exactly,
yeah,
right, because in that
he's a different guy now. Can you tell?
Totally.
Oh my god,
I love that guy. I love that.
Me too.
I really don't want to find out that he's some sort of plant. Like I know I'm going to find it one day. We're going to find it one day. Oh, he works for this so and so, and that implies that he's actually. But all right, who can? I don't know. But that's why, to me, most people that are into this stuff, the conspiratorial stuff, or however you want to put it, they're like kind of their way. I think you and I are a little different. Go about it a little different. We're not as black and white. Like we're aware of evil and things like that, but I think you and I have this both agree or bond on this effort to attempt to humanize everyone.
Yes.
Like I like to say, like no human being is beyond, having compassion given to them, no matter what they've done.
Right.
Even if they've done those horrible things.
Right.
It's like, judge the actions, not the person, because the person, if they're doing horrible things, one shape or another, like the trauma and the imprinting of life experience and whatnot has led them to being like, well, this is what we do.
Right.
Whether it's whatever, any one of these powerful scumbag evil motherfuckers, or like that guy I told you about, the old MAGA guy, that was going on about how amazing, from last week, how amazing Netanyahu is and all that shit, like these people, this is all they know, and we might be able to recognize like, oh my God, this guy is falling for some bullshit. And now he has become the monster he set out to hunt.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, that's why for personally, I distinguish between Zionists and Jews, and it's very important to do that. But at the same time, with the other conversation I was telling you about with my other friend, and that's the one, honestly, that I struggled to tell you more of my honest thoughts about, because some of what he was saying jarred me in a different way. And afterwards, when I processed it a little more, remember what I was talking about? The other friend, remember one conversation was the old MAGA guy?
Yes.
And the other conversation was my friend who's really smart.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what he said, which I just don't want to repeat right now.
Yeah, gotcha. Oh yeah, right. Yes.
The J's and the Z's.
Yeah. And
how and how when he said what he said, at first I was like, I looked around and was like, dude, don't say that so loud, you know?
Yeah, right.
Like, come on. But then later I was like, yeah, look at me. Yeah, I understand for practical reasons why I want to cover my ass and all that, but like I'm self-censoring. And yeah, maybe this guy, my buddy, was, you know, in an emotional place at that time, so he could just blurt out that shit in a way that, you know, I don't want to do because it would be held against me later. And and but I was like, damn, at least I appreciated that he was willing to just be so honest. And me, I very much, whatever, pride myself on being that honest. But here I was not being that honest, and I was shown this. Maybe it was a, you know, a way that is politically incorrect and all that, but it was a way that it just showed me, and I feel like whatever. I feel like I personally feel that anyone is capable of anything if they're willing to be honest enough with themselves. And just not many people are capable of being that honest with themselves. And I can be honest with myself in that way and be like, I don't want to say what he said, but I understand where he's coming from. And he's being very honest with himself, even though later he was like, you're right. And amended it to what I told him right at the beginning about the J's and the Z's.
Right.
But still, like, he was just, and because honestly, I see it. I just see it. And because I'm a Yankee fan, you know, there's a Yankees versus Red Sox. And if the Yankees say it, you believe it. The Red Sox say it, who you hate, then you just don't believe it, you know? And I'm just saying, I have skin in this game and I have my own biases and preferences. So I'm trying, part of what motivates me is I really actually, I'm kind of like, fuck the Z's, but I actually do want to attempt to help the J's. And I feel like the only way at this point, I just think it's pretty clear to me that you have to choose between the J's and the Z's, you know, and the Z's are really out to destroy the J's, even though that seems counterintuitive. And someone like my dad and that MAGA guy would totally disagree with me. But that's one of the philosophical fundamental things that I really do think, like, this needs to be understood. And for example, when I was hiking with my buddy this past, on that, you know, the Devil in a Day, his wife is like all in now. Like, she's like a liberal, blah, blah, blah. But dude, she had some book. It was like written by a Rothschild. And it was called like Rothschilds and Jewish Space Lasers. And it was like this book just debunking anti-Semitic conspiracy. There's some theories about Jewish space lasers and the Rothschilds. And I was just like, wow, that this book wouldn't age well if you read any of the Epstein releases, because, you know, this is one of the first times you know, with the Epstein releases, with Epstein saying that he works for them.
Yeah.
You know, these people don't know that, of course.
You're right.
She doesn't know that.
Right.
So she thinks anything said bad about them is just an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. But so while we were on the hike, me and him got into this stuff pretty deeply about like his wife and my dad. And I kept on bringing up his wife and my dad as examples, because I like to do that, because I think making personal examples, even though it can potentially make the person defensive and then close off and then shut off their prefrontal cortex, it can also humanize it in a way that without doing that, it's hard to truly humanize it. You know, it makes it less theoretical, makes it more like you're visiting France instead of just reading about France.
Right.
When you make this personal, like, so I knew it was like he was going to get a little defensive because it's his wife, but to his credit, he didn't. He was, because he kind of disagrees with her on this. I mean, he's totally ignorant about the subject.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, he's recognizing that being critical of Israel is not necessarily anti-Semitism.
Right. Exactly. Good Lord.
Where his wife just does not make that distinction. Okay. And my dad doesn't, and my dad's friends don't make it. And I see so many people doing that. and is absolutely trauma-based mind control.
Of course.
Done en masse. And so I get that and I see that, but at the same time, it's just sometimes very challenging and upsetting when so many people, like the group I'm born into, where it got drilled into my head from a little child, this perspective of history written by those winners, that it was presented in this way. And now I'm just like, wow, like how incomplete that is presented to me, and how I feel an obligation to do something about that. Because, you know, for example, my buddy's wife, she's really worried about the rise of anti-Semitism. And she's like, they're going to come and get us all. They're going to round us up again, you know? And I'm like, hey, and my buddy was like, well, you know, I don't fully agree with her on that, but maybe she's right, or maybe she has a point. And I'm like, look, you have to be nuanced about this and understand the difference between the J and the Z. But at the same time, if enough J's don't stand up and call a spade with the Z's, then, you know, the Z's do everything in their best, you know, their level best to conflate the J and the Z.
Sure, of course.
So the average person that doesn't really know much on the subject one way or the other, you can't blame them for having that propaganda campaign be successful and them conflating the J's and the Z's.
Yeah.
And then when they see what the Z's are doing, they'd be like, well, I guess that this is really what the J's are. And I'm like, yo, we need to do more to let the world know there's a big difference between the J and the Z. And what's going on right now is the Z's, and they're literally holding the J's hostage. That's what they're doing. Just like those who say, I stand with Ukraine. It's like, no, what you're doing by that, I know they mean that they really they feel bad for the Ukrainians and they hate Putin and they want the Ukrainians to defeat Putin and his expansionist, you know, desires and aims, you know, but it's like all they're doing unwittingly is supporting and prolonging the suffering of the Ukrainians, because what that propaganda campaign is there to do is manufacture consent for using the Ukrainian people as cannon fodder to die and have their lives torn apart and send their babies to die for the aims and the strategic aims of this oligarchic class that runs this empire and has been running this empire for centuries. And they're not going to stop until we pry it out of their cold, dead hands, you know? And we're not voting our way out of this. We're not kumbayaing our way out of this, you know? Like, I wish we could, but we're not. And there has to be another way. Otherwise, there is no chance. And I'm not saying whatever. I'm not saying anything necessarily specifically of what to do, as much as, like, I think raising awareness and spreading awareness is number one. And that's the way I'm going to go about it until I think of something better. But raising awareness is not going to do it all. That's a start. And without that, I don't see how you can do it. But that is not everything. But hey, in the meantime, I don't want to be killed. I don't want my family killed, you know. Yeah. I don't want to be, you know, have made to be destitute. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yes. I'm going to go about it in this way in the meantime, and not fly blind. And my buddy, when talking about his wife, I'm like, I understand, but she's unwittingly feeding into the thing that she wants to stop more than anything in the world. And she just doesn't know that. She just doesn't know that. Right. She doesn't understand that. And I can't fully blame her for that, because hey, I'll never forget that time when we were outside Closetron, and remember we'd sit outside and you'd eat your sandwich of the avocado and the mozzarella and the basil and the balsamic vinegar, and then you'd give me the little leftovers of like, 1/8 of the sandwich. And I'd be like, thank you. And then you told me, I remember you were like, dude, I know this might trigger you and upset you, but I just want to present this information. You presented the USS Liberty stuff to me.
Uh-huh.
Remember? And I was like, what's this? And you told me the whole story of the USS Liberty. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, how did I not know this? And then you got me to look into that. You're like, dude, I'm not going to push it on you, but you might want to consider looking into this. And that really started my journey into that element of this.
Yeah.
And, and I was telling him, he was like, how did you get into this? And I told him that story. And I was, and I was like, up until then, though, I more or less agreed with my dad and my buddy's wife and all these Z's, because I grew up a Z without knowing I was a Z. It worked that well that I didn't know I was a Z. I just didn't. I just thought I was a J.
Right.
And I didn't realize that I had adopted and internalized and imprinted a lot of Z stuff that was presented as J stuff. And that's part of the magic trick.
Yeah.
That's part of the trauma-based mind control.
Yes.
And that's what I was like, whoa. And so I know she doesn't get it. I know my dad doesn't get it. I know that like everyone, especially the J's and the Z's that don't get it, that they're missing that. And they don't get that just like I didn't get it. So I have to try to remember that, because sometimes I get really frustrated and angry with them. But, not all that long ago, I didn't know much better myself, and I fell for it myself. And I think that's a type of humility that a lot of people forget. Once they start learning about all this, lesser known stuff, once they start learning about it and you can't unsee it, like seeing one of those 1990s 3D pictures, and it's like, it just seems like squiggly lines, but then you finally see the 3D image and you're like, whoa, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. But there was always like one or two people that just couldn't see it. And they're like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And they'd stand there looking at it for like an hour and couldn't see it. And it's like, all right, well, that person just can't see it. And to them, it's just this speculative, theoretical thing, and as opposed to, it's like, no, this is real. All of us, eventually see it. And once you see it, it's much easier to see after that. It only takes you a few seconds to see it. But until then, you just can't see it. And so I think we have to like have the perspective and the humility of that. And I think in the movement or the whatever that you and I are more into, sometimes they lose sight of that. And it's understandable, because, I mean, honestly, it's
terrible. You don't ever get to land anywhere.
Yes.
It's terrible, in that way. Like, of course, that's how I like want to live, and like the other night, Rachel it was really funny. It was really funny, honestly. She was kind of like making fun of me a little bit, like not in a mean way at all. She was like
playful.
We were all hanging, me and her and Emery, and we were talking about stuff, and Emery was asking me some question or something, and and before I could answer, she goes, well, you would have to what did she say? I don't remember exactly. Something like, well, you would have to define what you mean by intelligence. You'd have to define the terms before you could even. And I'm like, exactly. That's exactly how I think. But like most of the time, I don't say that out loud because people will just punch me in the nuts. It's like, God damn it. Does everything have to be a philosophical, like, intense thought discussion about the nature of like reality? It's like, yeah, for me it is, but
exactly.
Like, but like, if somebody's like, do you want a sandwich, I'm just gonna be like, yes or no. I'm not gonna be like, well, define what a sandwich is.
Yeah, totally.
Is a grilled cheese a sandwich? Is a hot dog a sandwich? Well, what is pizza a sandwich if you fold it over on itself? What makes it? But that's how I fucking think, and applied to basically fucking everything. Where I'm and that was probably one of the main things that I got, if you can get anything from UG, is because he would just keep blowing up every statement. He would be like, there is no death, and then what we're scared of is death, but that doesn't actually exist, and that life doesn't exist either. Tell me what you define what life is. Describe what life is, because you need to be able to describe what life is, so then you know what death is, and you realize you can't describe what life is, and you keep destroying the thing you said before, and you end up like feeling like you're kind of floating, and you're like, oh crap, but there's a certain fear and freedom that comes with that feeling that for me is I guess part of my personality or part of my strategy of how I'm trying to understand whatever the fuck is going on.
Well, because you're trying to, like, right? I feel like the word science, the Latin, or some, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's like to dissect or cut in half is the Latin derivative or something, like to take it apart to get to its real root or essence,
or deconstruction. That's what they call it in like linguistics.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm sure there's a million words. I'm saying you're right. I'm not trying to like correct you. I'm saying like that yes, and in linguistics they call that deconstruction, that words have no meaning on their own. They only derive meaning from their opposites. So if you're going to try and figure out what a word is or what it means, you need to look at its opposing word, its antonym, and then they start to have meaning, because it's like they lean on each other like two sticks or something. Like the two sticks lean on each other. Just one stick can't stand on its own, but you can get two sticks to lean each other, and they create an actual structure that you can build with, or you can look at, or you could do that a bunch of times and build like a fucking bridge or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so trying to, because a lot of times people, we might use the common language, but we mean very different things sometimes when we use certain words and phrases. And so when someone says intelligent, like right to your example from before, like that might mean one thing to the, at first, but really trying to break apart, what does intelligence really mean?
Yes.
And that's not such an easy thing.
No.
Like, and one thing I like to say to people, that's something that is a thought of mine, and I know you tell me what you think about this, is that I think at least in our culture and subjective society, a lot of what gets passed off as intelligence is really, a lot of it is about memory. And so if someone, like, whatever, you go to school and you do well at school, and so people are like, well, they get straight A's, they're really smart. They got straight A's, they went to Harvard, and so they're really smart. Or they do this, so they're really smart. And it's like, well, doing that thing or getting good grades or making it to Harvard is largely about memory. It's largely about, can you memorize this information so that when the test comes up, you'll know what to answer. You'll memorize the formulas so that when they ask you on the physics test, which is, less about memory, it's when physics is one of those things where you start applying, not just memorizing, but you take the memory but you're also going to need critical thinking, because when they tell you a problem, and I only took high school physics, so I really liked it and I've forgotten most of it. It was fun because the test was like, would give you some sort of situational situation, and then you had to figure out what you needed to measure or understand, what was relevant. Like in a way, you had to critically think to find out what they were really asking you about, because it wasn't as obvious as 86 times 394, which you just do that math and that's what it's asking, or what year was the Magna Carta signed? And you just, well, did you memorize that date or not? And memorizing that date doesn't mean you're smarter. It just means you memorize that date, and it doesn't mean you understand history better necessarily, because it's like, what's important about the Magna Carta? And what you think is important about the Magna Carta depends on like what you learned about it. And you know, versus like, I just remember I learned about in high school. Magna Carta is the Great Charter. It was like the divine right of kings. And so that's what I remember. It was whatever, like 12, 15 or whatever fucking date it was, you know, and it was like, okay, but then like later in life, I found out, well, that's actually kind of like the basis of, or there's aspects of that that's the basis of what the Constitution is founded on. And I don't even know how accurate that is or not, you know, but like, but I've just heard stuff like that. I'm like, oh, why wasn't I taught that? You know, like that makes it more interesting, because it just sounded like another thing in history. I had to remember the date and the name without understanding how it's relevant and how it's important, you know. And it's like Gore Vidal says, like, history is arguably the most interesting and fascinating thing in the world. Yet at school, we make it all about names and dates, and we make it the most boring thing in the world. Like, why are we doing that? You know, why are we making this thing that should be the most fascinating thing, and we're turning children off to it? And to me, it's like, duh, what a brilliant plan. Of course you do it that way, because you do not want them understanding what's really going on and why it is going on. You just want to understand, well, we are America, and we're the land of the free.
We are America. Bum, 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 bum.
Exactly, you know, and or like learn about this math, but it's a way to compartmentalize everything so that people don't start seeing the bigger picture. But once you kind of start seeing the bigger picture and realizing everything is connected, then it starts feeling like fucking fascinating. And it's like, oh my God, and it's exciting, and it's enlightening, and it's like, this is the most amazing shit in the world. And it's like, yet people are like, all right, are you done talking already? Like, I just want to go back to the distractions and entertainment. And like, but this is the most entertaining stuff in the world, you know? And it's like, to you maybe, but not to me. And it's like, God, why don't you find this interesting? Like I understand if someone, whatever, there's shit I'm not necessarily interested in, but if someone could help teach me, whatever, like, I don't know anything about engines, you know?
Right.
But I'm sure there's someone that really understands engines really fucking well. And maybe they could teach me in a way like, here, let's go to this lawnmower and I'll show you this engine in the lawnmower or a car. And we'll go through the engine, and I'll help, you know, I'll deconstruct the engine for you, right? I'll science it. I'll deconstruct it into its basic parts so you'll understand what the engine actually is and what it's doing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it starts becoming fascinating, because the engine actually works in a similar way as these other aspects of nature. And then you're like, whoa, now I'm learning greater wisdoms and enlightening information, as opposed to just a way to make money and make the best engine in the NASCAR thing, you know, or whatever, you know. And
that just happened to me with, and I was gonna say, and I don't know your position on this. Like, I'm actually pretty pro AI, like, not corporatized AI, but the invention of AI. Like, I'm looking forward to being able to run my own localized AI system on my own computer that's not connected to the internet and stuff like that. And what you're describing literally happened to me the other day when our air conditioning broke or stopped working. I used AI it was such a cool, amazing experience, because it's like 10 years ago, if that had happened, what you do is you call an AC repair person, whatever, and then you're going to spend $200, $300, $400 just for them to come out. You're going to spend $200 just to come out. Then they're going to have the parts and the labor and all that kind of shit. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So this is like at night. This is like at fucking 10 o'clock at night, bro. This is like, and so there's nobody available anyway. You're going to have to wait till the next day. So I tell the AI like what's going on. And it starts telling me, okay, here's the things you can try to fix it and to diagnose what's going on with it. One of which is called the stick test, which I just found so funny in the midst of all this. Like, I'm feeling like I'm stressed out a little bit. And it's like, you're going to need to do the stick test, which is to determine if the capacitor has gone bad, and that the capacitor is this like high charge. This is stuff I didn't really know. The capacitor is this high charge battery that provides the initial impulse to get the fan moving. It gives it, and so if the capacitor is dead, then the AC will try and turn on, but the fan won't be able to get going. And so you'll hear the motor try and turn on like a and then it'll shut off. Then there's like a mechanism where, the fan isn't going, so then it'll shut off. So it's like get a stick and then wait for the AC to try and turn on. And when you hear the sound of the motor turn on, use the stick to whack the fan really hard to make it go, to make the fan go. And if then the AC turns on, then because I just was the capacitor essentially, then now you've got a bad capacitor. So I do the stick test, it works. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Now I know it's a capacitor. And then with the newer AI models, I was discussing, I was trying to create and plan a workshop that I want to teach eventually. And with the new ones, what it's doing, at least in my opinion, what I can tell, it's doing more predictive. So it'll give you the answer, but then it'll be predictive about the future in the last part of its answer. And it's been like blowing me fucking away. But anyway, so basically it answered my question. And then the predictive part, where it's saying, if you want to fix this yourself, I can walk you through the steps of what to do. And I'm like, okay, go. And so it walks me through the steps of what I'm going to need to do, including, which was just so amazing to me. It was like, once you take the panel off, once you turn off the power to the unit and blah, 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 take a picture. Once you take off the panel, take a picture of the inside wiring stuff. And just upload it, and I'll be able to tell you exactly which things to do, what parts are what, how to do it. And then I couldn't. So I take off the panel. The capacitor is completely rusted from top to bottom. It's been the same capacitor probably for 20 years or some shit. You know what I'm saying? So it was basically obvious. Okay, yeah, this thing's fucked up. There's no way this fucking thing is. But that meant also the label like on it was long gone. There was no way to identify what type of capacitor it was. And I'm like, the label's right off. I don't know what type of capacitor. And it says, well, just give me the type of AC unit it is. And if you can look inside for this thing for like the model number. So I do that, and it says, and it searches, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, it's this kind of capacitor. This is what you'll need. Here are the two places nearest you with it in stock. They've got this part ready for you right now. And so then Rachel happened to be running errands the next day and was near one of the places. She goes by, gets it. It's $20, brings it back, plug it in, blah, blah, blah. Thing starts up. So it was like AI plus $20 and this amazing amount of knowledge. Like now I can do this now. I can like somebody else's AC's capacitor goes off. I can be like, oh, I know how to fucking do this now. Like not only did I do it, I understand how and why and what goes with it. And so again, like I think corporatized AI where you have to connect to the internet and they're going to scrape all of your data and stuff like that. Yeah, that's terrible. But of course, welcome to America. Of course, we turn it into a service that you pay money for, that you pay a monthly fee for or something. But we're within a year or less of being able to run and train our own personal limited language model that is on our own computer, and that you don't have to share the data with anyone else. It doesn't have to connect back to their servers or anything. So to me, that it, just like with YouTube is full of so much crap, but also I have learned more from YouTube than probably any other source ever. And is all of it right? No. Is some of it just mind rotting? Yes, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Gordon Ramsay. It's not, but have I learned more chess and music and general knowledge and all of these interviews with people that I would have never seen ever, 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 ever. So the learning from AI has, at least for me, has reached such an amazing level, and it's only just the beginning, because you know they're holding back
of course,
so much of the levels. It means in the black budget programs they've already been using a something that probably is similar to AGI as opposed to a limited language model. This just talks real good, right? That's what this one is right now. But even like last month, it solved 3 heretofore unsolved mathematical like problems. So it's starting to do things that humans cannot do, and we're still in the early process of it. And once it's a non-corporatized, it's a private, it's you can use it and train it, and it can learn from you and your interests and what you want it to do. I think it's a tremendously amazing learning tool. And for learning about motors and stuff like that, I don't think there's anything, as of now, I don't think there's anything better. Perhaps besides maybe a human being, maybe getting a professional mechanic to walk you through how engines and stuff work, that may still be better. But I have access to AI at 24/7. You know what I mean? It's amazing. It's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I'm not down with the data centers and the amount of power and stuff like that. But all that shit is solvable. Like, we already know we have infinite energy systems. That you know, we're still acting like gasoline and atomic is like the only fucking, we're like, just blow shit up, okay? You know, so all the shit or data storage, like we already know you can store data in DNA, for instance. That's like wildly more efficient. Thank you. Than like a fucking hard drive or some shit, or a typical hard drive. So all the issues that are there are absolutely solvable. And so at least for learning, and for me, I have to say, because of whatever level of ADHD I have or something like that, I'm just not, my executive function, I don't want to use calendars. I don't want to check email. Like, go fuck yourself. Like, no, sorry. I fucking don't. I don't like it. I never will. For that kind of stuff, the executive functioning stuff, the goddamn AI, that's really the LLM. That's really what it can do. If you need a reminder to do something, or like with designing the workshop steps and the days and how it's going to go, it's just so unbelievably helpful for my brain in the areas that I am dumb in comparison to the areas I am very smart in. It helps shore up some of my dumbness. And it's so awesome, because in some ways I just kind of like, that's just who I am. I'm going to accept that. And I have. But then to find a tool that can do that for me, wow, that can do the stuff I'm not good at. Holy shit. It's an amazing feeling. It's amazing feeling, because it shores up a part of me. It's like, you don't have a right arm, and then all of a sudden they give you a prosthetic right arm that can read your thoughts, and so you're actually able to do the shit that you weren't able to do before. It's like, wow, this is fucking awesome.
So what this is making me think is what Hal Stone said. You know Hal Stone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He said God loves people who can sweat, right?
Yeah.
And what he meant by that was people that can hold 2 diametrically opposed ideas and accept the coexistence of them both, which kind of links up with what you were saying before about, you know, these words don't mean anything unless they're in the context of their antonym, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, on one hand, you're talking right now how AI can be so amazingly helpful on an individual level on how to, for example, learn how to fix an air conditioner, which is something that not all that long ago would have seemed like
insane. It'd be like, don't do that, you're gonna die, which you would if you don't know how to discharge the capacitor, for instance, because the capacitor holds the charge even when it stores it up. So you have to like discharge you have to get, it's called discharging it. You have to make sure you do that, otherwise you could get really seriously fucking hurt.
Right. So on one hand, right, if God loves people who can sweat, who can hold these
boy, I was sweating out there, I'll tell you what, boy.
What's that?
It was hot. It was hot. I wanted that AC working. And it was hot, and I was sweating. I was sweating from the heat and from the stress. I'll tell you that right now.
So this is something where we have to accept the coexistence of two opposite things.
Yeah.
Where on one hand, on an individual level, if we use it properly, this can be maybe the greatest tool mankind has ever created.
Yes.
Right? So that's one thing. On the other hand, we know, big picture,
yeah,
99% likely this is being used to enslave all of humanity.
Absolutely
right.
Okay? Absolutely correct.
So those are the two opposite opposing thoughts.
Yes, exactly.
That God will love us, and God is asking for us to accept the coexistence of those two things.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm so glad you just brought up that example, because that is such a great fucking example of how on an individual level, this is going to be one of the most powerful, empowering, helpful tools humanity has ever had.
Oh, absolutely.
We are going to be able
and
to
one
learn.
of the most absolutely evil, dangerous ones also. Like,
exactly.
And that's what makes it so, right? They those two sticks lean on each other.
Yep.
It wouldn't be evil if it weren't so powerful.
Yep.
And it wouldn't be something that could be used for so much good if it also couldn't be. It's like atomic energy. You can go bomb a motherfucker, or you can use it to power shit, refrigerate, so you can now have refrigeration for medicine. Now your ability to help people live or survive medically shoots to the roof once you've got electricity. So there's and they absolutely go together.
Right. And it's like Paul Bunyan. It's like Paul Bunyan all over, where the greatest axeman in the world, and then eventually the technology comes along and renders that amazing axeman to be, or the greatest chess player to just be whatever. Now you're like a 1200. You thought you were a 2300 or whatever. Now you're just a 1200, because the AI is now the new 2300, and now that's demoted the old 2300 down to 1200, and which is going to be interesting. And I think that when we talk about like Boomer Illuminati, they were the best chess players of the world,
because now you got the technocrats.
Well, but the technocrats are part of their plan.
Some of them.
Well,
some
this
of
is
them. I think some of them
jumped
on that train, and some of them are like, nah.
Well, okay, look, I'm open to that. And I still need to do more research, and because I'm not at the place like Jack Kruse is like, look, the real war going on right now is between the financial industrial complex and the technical industrial complex.
Yes, old school versus new school. But then there's also going to be a Venn diagram where they overlap, where there's going to be groups where it's going to be both together. Yes, absolutely right.
But the technocracy is not a new thing. This has like been around for at least 100 years, if not for longer. And the technocracy, and look, I'm open to be proven wrong, but I don't really see how the technocracy for the past 100 some odd years was not part of the Boomer Illuminati, framework. Whether, now look, I think that there are certain, like, you have to accept the game as it is and keep winning that game as it is in the present, but also have the vision to see what the future beholds.
Absolutely right.
Right. And so I personally don't see how, if this has been around for so long, and you have books like 1984, Brave New World, and many others, that have been laying this all out, so I don't, that's something that's a hard pill for me to swallow, that they're truly separate, that I think there's more overlap in the Venn diagram than not. Now, I'm open to that. I'm open to that. There are people that went the technocrat route and the big tech route that are that were kind of like, all right, I'll become a bit like whatever, Peter Thiel, right?
Right, exactly.
Like I'll become a multi billionaire or Elon Musk. I'll become a trillionaire but the Elon Musk seems a little different. And I don't know, but they seem like they're part of the same, but I don't see how those people aren't on the payroll, have not been on the payroll.
Well, yeah.
Haven't been Epstein. Like they all seem that they've been Epstein. Now, I guess maybe what I'm more open to is that maybe that group that has been Epstein, the technical industrial complex, the technocrats that were hired by the banking, boomer Illuminati overlords, and Epstein, so they're totally blackmailed. But maybe that group is like, dude, now with our techno shit, like we have the goods on you too. So you spill the goods on us, we spill the goods on you, and you got more to lose than we do. And you have more than enough, like whatever, the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, like my dad is like, Rothschilds, and he looks it up on his AI, and it's like, look, they only have a few $100 billion. I'm like, I'm like, you're fucking retarded, Dad. But that's whatever. That's how he sees things. He's a Yankee fan, and he will not. When you tell him something bad about the Yankees, he's just going to do everything he can to, And so when they say they've got a few $100 billion, that's it, and it's like, whatever. It's like, Dad, I don't need to run this super marathon with you. Not in that way. Like you're helpful. I can meet you where you're at in other ways, and you can be helpful towards me relative to the other people I know. But in this way, like, we don't need to go there because it's so disappointing. It's like, because it's like you're so smart in some ways, and then you're just fucking retarded in these other ways. And whatever. I guess that's neither here nor there. But I don't see how. Like I'm not saying they're perfect and all-seeing and all-knowing, but this has been around for so long. I don't see how they aren't like so heavily invested in that shit that, like, because that's what I would do. It's like the people that think that the oligarchy would only support the Republicans or the Democrats, but not both.
Right.
It's like, why wouldn't they support both? And so you're telling me they're just all in on oil, and they just refuse the technocracy and the big tech, and they'll invest in it and make tons of money on it, but won't recognize how important and vital it is to the future, and it has been in the past. I can't swallow that. I'm open to having my mind changed on it, and I would love to talk to someone like Jack Kruse about it and learn some of the nuance of how there is an infight, even though I see the space for the infight that might be playing out, and that I'm just saying I'm skeptical yet open, and I think that's part of that's what sweating is, right? Having both things and just accepting, well, until you fully know how to fix that air conditioner, you're just gonna keep on learning until you understand how to fix the truly understand how the air conditioner works. And I don't truly understand how it works, but there's just enough things that now, like, through this many years of looking into the shit, that like things are making more and more sense to me, even though on a micro level I'm totally ignorant about a whole lot of, like, about finance, about a lot of science, about things that are relevant that if I knew that shit, I think I could decode more. But I'm a little, because of my ignorance in those areas, I'm just working with what I have. But I don't know. I just don't see. I think it would be so outlandishly short-sighted for them to not be all in on the tech. Like, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Like, but on the other hand, I could see how the tech people, they're like, oh yeah, you hired us to do this. We're all billionaires and trillionaires now, to set up your system of surveillance, the surveillance state and police state and AI and robotics, which will eventually, place the humanity or the need for human resources as an input to this greater global empire. But and I could see how, like, maybe at some point then, like, and you Epsteined us, so you have footage of us with underage girls, and if you ever choose to reveal that, we're gonna have a really tough time, unless we just go to Israel, of course, then we're safe, because that's right. The Vatican and Israel seem to be the two places where pedophiles can go and have, be given safe sanctuary. So that's why, again, and it, like Jack Kruse talks about how, like, there is like something to the effect of like a fight between Palantir and Israel, but that guy Simon Dixon is all in on Israel, is like this crucial node of the military industrial complex, but not as, but in Simon Dixon's terms, it's the three main power structures of the world are the MIC, the FIC, and the TIC. Military industrial complex, financial industrial complex, technical industrial complex. And that, for example, he this goes into how Israel is this major node, a vital node of the military industrial complex. But it also seems like almost everything, like that's how they pulled off that pager attack. That's how, like, it already seems like they've been so integral to the technical industrial complex.
For sure.
But also, they've clearly, especially through the Rothschilds, are clearly a big hub of the financial industrial complex. And that's something Jack Kruse always says, is that the financial industrial complex and the bankers, they have that area. They help create Israel as a way to diversify their risk and set up shop there for a number of reasons, not least of which was going back to World War I and Sykes-Picot and shit like that, where, World War I, even though none of us got taught this in school, that World War I, a big part of it was oil. And I never learned that. But yes, that's clearly what it is. And trying to get Israel having a beachhead in that hub where it seemed very likely that so much of the oil of the world might very well reside there. So you want to have a beachhead, and an aircraft carrier or a place to be a center of operations, so that you can keep tabs on the client governments you set up, because Sykes-Picot, right, was the French and British ambassadors or diplomats that drew the boundaries towards the end of World War I, that drew the boundaries of what would be the Middle East, which back then was called Western Asia, but they rebranded it as the Middle East. When you rename and rebrand something, now it's under new ownership. And so, but then you have to put these managers in, like these royal families, whether it's the House of Saud or whatever, like, the King of Jordan and whatever, these families that you can't vote them out. You have to be born into this bloodline to rule it, and you can't just have, because that's why they manage the world in this interesting way of the idea of spreading democracy and freedom, which is obviously just a sales pitch, and the idea of self-determination, which is obviously, and all these things have some legitimacy, but in large part they're used more for the sales pitch or to manufacture consent by rebranding empire and slavery as freedom, democracy, and self-determination. And also, especially once you understand the occult, satanic, Baal worship type shit, where actually part of what they're trying to do is this subtle, clever legal game, like, like whenever you agree to terms on the new Apple software update, it's like you just click agree. You don't read the exhaustive, agreements that you're agreeing to, like that whole South Park human centipede thing where, Tim Cook is like, you all agreed to this, So they set it up because self-determination works in that way. Democracy is like, you all voted for this. You all, the people of said country, you know, you all voted for this. We didn't force this on you. You chose Obama. You chose Trump. So this is, you get what you deserve, you know? And so there's clearly something that in the end, if there ends up being some court of law, which, you know, courts of law are really there, set up by, you know, the most powerful interest to make it so they can rig the game and make it so that it's less likely that there will be retribution and vigilantism held against you, where people are going to grab their torches and pitchforks and try to get you, because they can vote you out, or they can sue you in court. But the court and the political system is really there to make it so that the super powerful and the super wealthy will have such a competitive advantage almost into perpetuity, with some exceptions to the rule. And probably a lot of those exceptions to the rule are either not as big as we think they are, you know, meaning they end up becoming this symbolic thing that we're like, look, we have freedom. We have Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump and Obama and whatever, you know, but really, no. Like, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. And so these systems, like the judicial, the legal system, the judicial system, the political system and democracy, are really there to set up so that it, you know, people, it's like, hey, it could be so much worse. You could be living in a monarchy and you can't do anything about it. Here, you can vote, you can protest, you can say whatever you want, you know, but it's like, whatever, you can't vote your way out. And those of us are now, you know, woken up to the fact that we can't vote our way out of it. We can't sue them to change it, you know, and just like whatever, when Chris Hedges sued Obama about, I think it was about the habeas corpus, you know, because that's, Obama got rid of that, you know, or codified that. And then Chris Hedges and a bunch of other people like him successfully sued Obama and won. And it's like, whoa, look, you see, the system works. They sued and won, but then Obama just appealed it and whatever, they won the case, but in reality, nothing had to change, because they could just appeal it and wait them out and just keep doing it anyway. And good luck changing it, you know? You got to go.
I got to.
Okay.
That's way behind. I'm sorry. We got to call it here.
All good.
Let's keep going next time. I'll talk to you then. I'll post this later on and I'll send you the link.
Awesome, man. Yo, great talking to you, buddy.
You too.
Awesome.
Talk to you later.
All right. Later, buddy.
Bye.